Underemployment and overemployment in Australia. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. Got my lunchtime stein and I thought we would have a look at this article from the ABC talking about underemployment and overemployment. And then we might look at some figures from Roy Morgan, which is an alternative unemployment and underemployment figure to the ABS, one which, frankly, I prefer their methodology. I've been talking about my concerns with underemployment for a while, but I've never really thought about overemployment, to be honest, because, frankly, it's just something you do. And the architectural profession is notorious for overemployment. I remember when I was first working as a student in one of the big firms in Brisbane here, and I would stay back and do my uni work at work, because the way we studied, you'd be at uni 1 day a week from 8 to 8, and you'd work 4 days in an office, which was fantastic. And often, there'd be people that'd be working all the way through late into the night. Again, and there'd be family men, people with families that'd be just working away, working away. Some of them would go home, tuck the kids in, then come back to work. And what's that going to do with your sex life with your wife? Anyway, so underemployment and overemployment at the same time. It is happening, and it could be keeping you from a wage rise. It's basically two different sides of the stress coin. This is labour force economist Conrad Deveris. There's people who are desperate for more hours, and there are people who are struggling to keep a semblance of a life. Well, just talk to anyone in the legal profession. For job seeker Mitch, the problem is not theoretical. With just one shift a week working for a large retailer, the stress of being underemployed consumes his day. So he would be considered, under ABS statistics, he would be considered employed. Employed. He's not part of the unemployment rate. But one shift a week, what's that, 3 hours? It's not even worth it, is it? And this is the problem. So I don't know what to do with my life. It also affects me because I feel bad that I can't actually pay people, pay back, or pay bills, he said. Or pay people back. I can't manage to do any of that. That's what makes me feel bad. Melinda Walker has the opposite problem. When the criminal lawyer's alarm goes off, she's there at 4 on the screen. There you go, a lawyer. I remember when I was doing Uber for a while, I'd be picking up lawyers in the middle of the night and driving them home. I mean, it's just crazy. It's so not worth it. You know, you kill yourself so you can be a partner and then have a heart attack at a later time. You know, she works on a laptop during her 90-minute commute and does not stop all day. Probably 12 to 13 hours a day, I'd say. At least, if you want to add that up to a week, maybe 60, 70 hours a week in total, she told the business. That includes work time in the office and outside time, taking phone calls or answering emails. Well, yeah. This is a huge problem. Conrad describes it as a two-speed workforce that leaves no one happy. You're either running around stressing about paying your bills, or you're losing your relationships with people around you. The only life you have is that of work. Yesterday, there was an article doing the rounds on LinkedIn about a father whose son died while the dad was at meetings. And I mean, it's an unfortunate and tragic event, and these things happen. But it does help one to reframe and appreciate what is actually important in life. You know, once you're on the deathbed, or you see, you know, people die, and you carry on from that. You know, when my father passed, just thinking of what's actually important in one's life, what people are remembered for, what legacy you leave. Unfortunately, the way Rachel and I are living our lives is very, very unconventional. We were bringing our babies to work from day one. You know, there's photographs of me typing on the computer with Mina on my arms. So yeah, we've been doing that for a while, and I've been around for a lot of my children's growing up. They don't realize how unusual it is to have dad around this often. So both of them are incredibly sad and frustrated. And you know, they're basically linked. Oh, no, they're not. They're not. Mitch has got a retail job. And then you're comparing him to a lawyer. So they're very different, completely different workforces, okay? So, yeah. Official ABS statistics reveal the underutilization rate of the workforce, a key measure combining people who are unemployed and those who want more hours of work, is now almost 14%. So let's jump here and we'll have a look at the Roy Morgan difference. And we've got here, come on, right down the bottom, July 2019, 9.6% and 8.7. So 9.6, I'm just going to scroll up the top, is the underemployed, and unemployed is the other one, and unemployed and underemployed. So what Roy Morgan is saying is at 18.3. Now I will link to a previous video I did, and I'll put the time card right up here, and I just need to get my pen active, and I'll write down the time, 5:44, to explain or show you what the difference is between the Roy Morgan approach and the ABS approach. There's a difference in methodology. I think the Roy Morgan approach makes much more sense. So there's the ABS is saying 14%, they're saying 18.3%. So they're giving us a worse figure. And I think that makes sounds a bit right, doesn't it? Sounds a bit right. This is happening even as the nation's unemployment rate approaches 5%, a rate that used to be widely considered to be fully employed. Now, that's before the gig economy. One potential factor is growth in the hours worked by some segments of the population. Australians work among the longest hours in the world, and experts argue it is hampering wage growth, increasing stress across the nation, and making it harder for people to try to get into the job market. Is it? Is it really? That's the problem. Okay, from a small business owner's perspective, you could either use your existing staff, push them harder, hopefully you pay them and reimburse them for that, or you could hire someone else. What's going to be easier to do? The problem is, it is a pain to hire someone. There's so much red tape. Firing someone is a nightmare. It is a nightmare. And most people in their life have never fired someone. They've got no idea. They've never been responsible. All our politicians, how many of them have never run a business? A good Reserve Bank governor. He's got employees, but it's not his money. It's not his mortgage on the line. That's the thing. You don't appreciate it. Until you've been in there, until it's either pay your mortgage or keep the staff, you don't appreciate what it's actually like. So, people are starting to wake up. We do have a serious working time problem, said Professor John Buchanan, chair of the Business and Analytics discipline at the University of Sydney's Business School. We work among the longest hours. We've got among the highest proportion of part-time workers, and amongst many of those part-time workers, they want to work more hours. Well, that's life. Australia was a world leader in formulating the 8-hour day. That's safe working hours, dividing the 24-hour day into 8 hours of toil, 8 hours of recreation, and 8 hours of rest. But that is long gone. Workers perform an average of 6 hours of unpaid work a week, the Australian Institute found last year. The ABS data back that up. More than 1 in 5 of the nation's almost 13 million workers put in more than 45 hours a week, while more than 300,000 are habitually working more than 70 hours a week. Okay, but that's what you do if you want to get ahead. That's what you have to do in a competitive environment. You want to start capping the amount people can work. You want to make it illegal for people to work more than that. I bet you that's what the socialists would love. They would love, like France, like some of the stupid laws they have in France, and look at how their economy and the social issues they're having. Yep, sure. Professor Buchanan said the key impact is on quality of life, and it is particularly acute among young people working the longest hours. I didn't say young. Particularly acute among people working the longest hours, aged between 25 and 45. Yes, if you're under 45, you're still young. Yep, definitely, guaranteed. Stein says so. This is when people are going through family formation. So it's meaning that there's acute pressure on people's lives when all those other aspects of life are intensified, he said. So people are raising small children. They're often looking after elderly parents, and at work they're trying to work punishing hours. It really does sap a lot of vitality out of life. Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And that's where you need to make the choice of what you want to do in your life. Maybe take a cut. Maybe this is kind of related to this gender wage gap. Why the women have a different earning capacity to men, because they choose to work less hours. Maybe to take care of the family. Are hard workers keeping your wage down? Nope. If you're not a hard worker, that's keeping your wage down. Here we go. Let's see this. It's not just that people are working longer hours at one job. An increasing number of people are working with multiple employers or self-employed in the gig or contracting economy. Almost 1 in 5 workers are now holding down 3 or more jobs concurrently, but they are on average earning less than workers with just one role. Recent ABS analysis of 100 million tax records over 6 years to 2017 found a quarter of people under 30 were holding multiple jobs. There you go. That ain't good, is it? I bet you it's because they have to, not because they want to. The number of hours worked by employees was up 2% in the past year, above the 20-year average according to ABS data. Here's the wage price index, here's inflation. So, maybe people see the writing on the wall. Okay? Maybe they're realizing, oh wait, we're running out of work here, they're having to cut staff, what's going on? I'll have to put in extra hours, I need to help bring work in, or I need to prove myself to my boss to make sure I can keep my job. Maybe that's happening. You know, to the boss of the peak body of Australia's union, it comes down to employees holding diminishing power over the conditions of their employment. If you feel as though you can't say no to your employer and you have to work these extra hours, often unpaid, so it's really a form of wage theft, really, or job theft, the Australian Council of Trade Unions Secretary Sally McManus said. Well, I mean, guys, it's too late now. Good on you. I mean, just look at union membership. Look at who the demographics are of union membership. Most of them are middle-aged women. Most of them are public servants or in the health sector. So there you go. I mean, come on, guys. They're socialist-leaning organizations. Didn't the, CFMEU, weren't they supporting the Venezuelan regime where they're telling people to eat their pets? So I don't know what credibility these groups can have anymore. Look at the enterprise bargaining agreements that Toyota had in their Camry factory. This is the first factory, the one in Victoria, first one built outside of Japan. Read through the EBA, guys. Read through all the complexities and perks and things that the workers got. It was insane. It really was. As someone who's run a small business and worked for myself, I was shocked. It's a different world. It's a different world. One of the issues with the union movement, that no one will tell you in the union movement, is that it reduces the quality and, it actually has a negative effect on wages for those not inside the union from an economic perspective. So, and there's no competition in it. It's a closed loop. If they should deregulate it so you've got multiple unions competing to represent their workers, and then they can negotiate special deals and different EBAs, and you can pick which one you go for. That's a bit too free market, isn't it? You can't have that. So you're going to work these hours in order to keep your job, and that's a problem. Well, okay, not for lawyers, not for professionals, okay? You're talking to the wrong crowd. The lawyer isn't gonna... She's doing that to progress her career. The retail guy who's complaining about getting 1 hour, 1 shift a week, maybe he's just not good at his job. Or maybe the problem is the minimum wage doesn't equate to his worth. So poor old Mitch here hasn't got any experience or skills. So he's not very useful. So he's not worth the minimum wage that is mandated. So now he gets less. He only gets 1 shift a week. They just keep him in there in case they need him in if someone else gets sick. Whereas if the minimum wage was less, you'd get him in more. He'd get more money in the end. No one likes that. You know, if we actually looked at addressing how difficult it is to employ people, you looked at it easier to fire people, get rid of a lot of the red tape. Ms. McManus says people habitually work unpaid overtime, are inadvertently taking jobs from others who desperately want them. No, that's too simplistic. It's not their fault as individuals, she added. They're in a position when often they're put under pressure to work those extra hours for free. And so employers, if they think they can get people to work all those hours for free, why would they employ someone they had to pay? Well, you know, one issue we had was we were competing with companies that would offshore all the work. And I'd want to hire locals, students, studying architecture, and give them opportunities to learn their craft. It's hard to compete. It really is. It's impossible. Professor Buchanan said businesses now have immense power over determining what is acceptable for their workers, with award systems that set wages and hours being worn down over recent decades. Yeah, sure. What are you talking about? What's the profitability of these businesses? How many businesses have gone bust? I mean, guys, there's two sides to these things. A nation can't compete. We're dependent on bloody iron ore. Hours of work started to get out of control in the 1980s, and it's been locked in now in enterprise agreements and weekly regulated parts of the labour market, he argued. You now have many workers not having enough hours, and those who do have hours, full-timers, working amongst the longest hours in the world. Conrad believes it will take a crisis within organizations to force change. Yes, but the people who are not getting enough workers probably aren't at the same skill level. What about education capacity? What about intelligence? Not all people have the same skills. You can't take someone who's working a retail job and just stick them in to do the job of a criminal lawyer, the example they made here. You couldn't take them in and get them doing architectural design or drafting or problem solving. It's, you know, come on, guys. What are you doing? Until these things even out, wages are going to stay pretty stable, because those who are getting pay increases only a significant amount of money, they're actually a pretty narrow group. They're pretty small, he said. It's not translating into the economy overall. This feels like a real us versus them article, doesn't it? In the meantime, Mitch still wants to be able to work more, to help his mum with household bills and afford to get his driver's license. It's sad, he said. I thought I would actually have enough hours, have an actual full-time job, be able to actually go out with friends and everything. But I can't really do that. Then get another job. Get off your ass, get another job. Go door knocking. Okay? Dye your hair. Get rid of the stupid blonde dye hair. Learn how to do a tie properly. Get out there and hit the pavement, mate. Get your resume. Go networking. Go to networking events and meet people. Start value adding to your skills. Learn stuff online. Try and start your own business. Do something. Don't just complain. Starting to see why you may not have more than one shift a week. Let me know what you think, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. And what would your solution to this be? You want us Australia to go down the French model? Maximum hours per week? Where businesses have to shut down if they work too much? You know, there's like bakeries shutting down on Sunday because they've worked too much. It's insane. Our productivity, and we'll look at the Australian productivity, is actually down. Productivity, yeah, we'll look at it another time. It's down. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I agree that underutilization is a big problem, but I think the amount of hours that people are doing, you know, 1 in 5 workers spend more than 45 hours a week on the job, while 300,000 perform 70 plus hours. That's the Pareto principle, where most people do most of the work. You know, 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people, essentially. We're seeing that here. It's normal, guys. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think overemployment is something that people need to be aware about. It's usually something you learn as you get older, what's important in life. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Take care.